Welcome to Rediscover the Verde Valley, presented by the Cottonwood Chamber of Commerce. This show is an opportunity for locals and tourists to discover or rediscover what the Verde Valley has to offer. I'm Christian Oliva Del Rio, and I'm the Chamber President for the Cottonwood Chamber. With me today is Laura Jones. She's the Coordinator for Community Engagement with Friends of the Verde River, and Kathleen Green, who's with the Verde Valley Birding and Nature Festival. So welcome to both of you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you for being here. So Kathleen, I'm going to get into the Birding Festival a little bit later on. I think I'd like to learn a little bit more about Friends of the Verde and you know, what it is that you guys do and when did you start, you know. Okay. Where are we going?
So Friends of the Verde River has been around for 10 years. Our former name was Friends of the Verde River Greenway. And in this last year, we sort of reevaluated what we were doing and sort of said, what do we really, first of all, what do people really call us? Everybody called us Friends of the Verde River, right. So that's why we changed part of our name change. But we've been around for 10 years, and our mission really is to preserve the Verde River. Right. And we have a threefold approach to that. One is through restoring habitat, the other is through sustaining flows, and then the third is promoting community stewardship.
Right. Great. So, you know, we kind of touched on this when we were talking yesterday that, you know, one of the things that not knowing anything about the river was that there was all these different groups, and it was kind of nice for me to see that Friends kind of was a way to pull some of these groups together and, you know, not duplicate resources.
Right, yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit about that?
So, sure. In the last 15 or so months, Friends has merged with the Verde River Basin Partnership and the Verde Valley Birding and Nature, Verde Valley Nature Organization, VRVNO.
VRVNO, right.
And to really become a you know, under one umbrella, because we weren't duplicating what we were doing, but it was very complementary. So it made sense for them to come together. And then, as you were saying, it streamlined our administration and those kinds of things. So so that's part of what Friends is now.
It makes sense that we're all friends,
right? Exactly.
And all friends of the river, we would hope, right?
Right. And we've also launched a new website this year, which is verderiver.org, which is the direct place and the easiest name to remember for us, and so all of the things that we do are now on that website. So
excellent. And you have a Facebook page as well.
Oh, yeah, we have a Facebook page as well.
It's Facebook, and then it's Verde River Friends, right?
Is our hashtag, and our Instagram and our Twitter is Verde Friends, and then our Facebook is Friends of the Verde River.
Excellent. So you guys are the go-to group when it comes to the river. I really appreciate everything that you guys are doing. So some of the areas that you said you're sustaining flows, what does that mean?
It means that we ultimately want there to be a base flow in the river, that the river will be flowing at a constant all through the year. So as we all know, June is the hottest month. It's where the river is lowest and agricultural diversions are probably being used at their highest. So we want to make sure there's a base flow in the river so that the river remains healthy. So that's part of the work we're doing. And we have a program, the Verde River Exchange, that is a water offset program to help offset groundwater pumping, which really is the primary way that the Verde gets its water source. It is through groundwater. Right. The rain and all helps, but it's not really where the water comes from.
Yeah. So can people learn a little bit more about the Verde Exchange and how that works? How they do that through the website?
Yeah, there's on the website, and we're partnering with groundwater pumpers and landowners to help offset the use of that groundwater. And there's stories on the website that can tell you all about that.
That's excellent. It's a great program. Excellent. So the Verde Exchange is one program, and then I also read about the Verde Land and Water Planning Toolbox. Right.
So it's a toolbox that's really about how do you plan to use water. So whether you're building a new home, municipalities are putting in infrastructure, you maybe want to look at a gray water system. It's a place that there's tools that really people can go in and look at how do they institute water planning into their day-to-day lives, but also forward-thinking planning. So for communities to look at sample documents of things that they can then maybe you know, tweak to make work for their communities.
Sure. That's excellent.
And we really think that's got to be at the forefront of everybody's mind.
Most definitely. You know? And like I said, you know, I moved here over 20 plus years ago, and we all understand how important the river is, but some of us may not know exactly how to take better care of it, and this will definitely help, right?
Yeah, we hope.
So restoring habitat, right? So that's the other Tell us a little bit about restoring habitat.
So
what
in
does that mean?
2012, Friends got a grant to start doing habitat restoration. And it started with really going in and removing invasive plants from the floodplain of the riparian area. Okay. Invasive plants tend to be very aggressive. They don't have any natural predators. They are often fire hazards, and they grow unchecked. So they take over the native vegetation.
Right. They choke it out.
Yep. Yeah. And so here in the Verde, we're lucky. We have a lot of native vegetation. So where we've been able to go in and remove the invasive plants, we have a lot of native vegetation that come back and it's healthy. Right. So we've been doing that now. We've restored over 9,000 acres along the Verde, all the way from the headwaters down through Camp Verde and even on the Wild and Scenic, along Oak Creek. And we have crews, Arizona Conservation Corps crews, and a crew from the Vetraplex that come in and work for us 20 weeks in the winter. Right. And they are on the ground doing invasive removal and then also doing monitoring. So we all know that these plants are incredibly aggressive. It takes more than one treatment to get them out. So we have a whole crew that's dedicated to going through and
maintenance of it,
making sure that's being done.
Right.
In addition to that, we now have a native grass project because we want to be able to restore landscapes with native grasses that are hardy, that are meant to grow here in this climate. So we've got that. We're doing some pollinator gardens around the community.
We were kind of talking about
so there's all kinds of habitat stuff that's going on.
The pollinator gardens, I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah,
Just sharing that with you guys because
they're fun and they're beautiful, and you get to hopefully see some monarchs or some fabulous butterflies.
So if somebody was interested in seeing a pollinator garden, where could they go to check that out?
The easiest one that's publicly accessible is at the Camp Verde Library.
Okay.
And they've been doing, as they built the new library, this was part of their planning to put in a pollinator garden there. And also right across from there, Rosanico Park is a native grass plot. So you can see the native grasses that are being grown as well. So Rosanico and the library are a good place to do that in Camp Verde.
Right, that's great. So then people can go out there. Do they actually teach you a little bit about the different plants and whatnot?
A lot of the plants there are labeled. And we do some volunteer work, volunteer activities where people can come out and help us maintain some of the pollinator gardens that we have helped establish.
Great.
And that's a great opportunity to learn about what's good, what's a pollinator, what's going to attract the birds and the bees and the,
Well, I've got some ideas, and Verde River Growers, you said, is a good place
the
to
the alternative plant festival that Verde River Growers has is a good place to start. Yeah.
Great, that's excellent. I'm excited. My granddaughters are going to be real happy about that one. So, so the other area then is promoting community, right? So, is that kind of your field of expertise?
Yeah, that's sort of my. That's what I do.
Right.
So with the merger, Friends has always done volunteer work out in the community. We started as volunteers who were doing invasive plant removal, just a bunch of enthusiastic folks who would go down and on the Greenway or wherever and take out invasive plants. And so, but we've grown and we do now volunteer work in all kinds of ways. As I was saying, the pollinator grasses, the gardens, the native grass project and all that. We also doing things like the Verde River runoff now, which was the March 17th, and we had 143 registered voters, which was the most we'd ever had. So we're really excited. That was a great day.
Event,
yeah, it was really fun to see all those people, and the stand-up paddleboarders are now really coming into their own. So that's fun to see them come down the river.
Excellent.
And then we have the Verde Valley Birding and Nature Festival that's coming up April 26th through 29th that we're really excited about.
Great. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about each of those events and some more of your programs, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Come on back.
This is Bruce Morrow, Transportation Manager for Cottonwood Area Transit. Remember, we cover the entire Verde Valley and Sedona. Cottonwood Area Transit has you covered wherever you want to ride in the Verde Valley, all day, every day. Take Cottonwood Area Transit through Clarkdale, Verde Village, and from 26 locations in Cottonwood. With Verde Links, it's a quick and easy trip to Sedona every day. Don't forget our connectors to Camp Verde. Visit cottonwoodaz.gov for Cottonwood Area Transit and take a seat. Let's go ride.
There are people who struggle with addiction and homelessness. Sometimes it may feel like there is nothing we can do to help.
But there is. You can make a tax-deductible donation and help those in need transition away from homelessness. When you give someone a handout, you could actually be supporting an addiction.
A better life starts with better health, especially for those living in the streets.
Support solutions, not addictions. You can make a difference. Visit cottonwoodcares.com.
Welcome back to Rediscover the Verde Valley. With me is Kathleen again from the Birding Nature Festival, and Laura Jones with Friends of the Verde River. And so we were just talking about, you know, promoting community and some of the other programs and events that you have under there as well. But one thing I was kind of interested in, and I'd like you to maybe share with some of us that don't know a whole lot, the invasive plants. So they're not naturally occurring, right? So
right.
How did they get there, and you know, why did they get there?
So plants have been brought into the Verde Valley and in many places around the country, around here to help with erosion control and stabilization. So people planted things along the rivers and the creeks to help, you know, stabilize the banks. And there's a famous story about, you know, a gentleman in Clarkdale taking ailanthus seeds and for the tree of heaven and having all the kids collect them and dumping them over Jerome. So it's one of the reasons there's so much tree of heaven in Jerome. So, so that's how most of them got here. The challenge was with them is, as I said earlier, they really grow unchecked. They don't have natural predators. So a tree, like a cottonwood tree, has things that live in it and eat it and, you know, all that kind of stuff that help keep that under control. When you have a non-native species like that, it will proliferate and take over and potentially, you know, make it so nothing else can grow around it.
Right. So kind of like pollinator plants that we kind of need, right? So
right. Yeah. So in our cottonwoods and our willows, so the Verde is one of only 20 cottonwood willow gallery forests in the world, and you know, that's a really unique habitat. It's a unique habitat for birds. It's home to several threatened and endangered species, such as the southwest willow flycatcher and the yellow-billed cuckoo, that really need this habitat and this kind of environment. So the cottonwoods create a really high cover, and then the willows are a lower understory, and all of that works together. And when you have invasive plants, you potentially push all of that diversity that makes for a healthy habitat out, and those plants can become a monoculture. And so in some watersheds here, down on the Gila is one of those in southern Arizona, and in Utah and Colorado, there are some places where literally there's a monoculture and there's only one tree. There's a tamarisk tree or a Russian olive, tamarisk particularly, and that's all that is there. And so even if you can take out the tamarisk tree, there's very little native vegetation that comes back. So we want our habitat to be healthy for us, for the birds, for the fish, you know, for the little insects that live all over. So that's really about that habitat being really healthy.
Excellent.
So the tamarisk also, interestingly, has the interaction with the soil causes the pH of the soil to change, which makes the other plants that are native unhappy in that soil. The thing
it's kind of toxic to it.
Yes, and the river willow, which is the native plant, will lay down in a flood. It just lays right over, and then it comes back up. That's the reason why it holds the soil. It prevents erosion. So when the tamarisk was introduced, I think its country of origin is Australia. But they brought it in at the turn of the century to help with erosion control, and it's just taken over. And it takes years to kill it. Once you cut it down, it comes right back up from sprouts. And I've cut it for 3 years in a row.
On our property,
and I put black plastic bags over it. And that worked, by the way, if you get a good mill black plastic, a thick
It's amazing. I'm excited to learn all of this. So I'm definitely going to be paying a lot more attention to what you guys are doing.
And it's pretty spectacular. We just removed a giant patch of giant reed or Arundodonax in Clarkdale, which is along the stretch that you kayak in Clarkdale. And so I'm really excited this summer to kayak that stretch and see how different it's going to be, because this giant patch of invasive plants is now gone. And so, and the people whose property it was on were shocked when it was gone, how much more property they had, and it had just taken over to a point where they couldn't even see the river anymore. So it is exciting to see the difference as you're recreating. And I've worked with a lot of private landowners, and they're like, well, we want to take out all these trees. And we're like, just take out the invasives first.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you'll see what's really there. And
Yeah.
people are 99% of the time pleasantly surprised
Right.
about what a difference it really can make. And they can see the difference in their property and on their land.
That's
So.
wonderful.
I had a volunteer elm come up in my backyard right in front of a window, and I thought, oh great, I have another tree. And I was getting ready to transplant it this year. And then I learned about Siberian elms. And I found out it was an invasive, and I went,
Oh no!
so
Yeah.
much for that transplant. Chop it down.
That's excellent. So you guys do a lot of different events too throughout the year, right? So
Yep.
like you were touching on was the Verde River runoff, which is based out of Camp Verde. Where does that run?
It runs from Whitebridge to Beasley Flat, which
Okay.
is the 10-mile competitive part of the race.
Okay.
And then there's a fun float that goes from Clear Creek to Beasley Flat.
So on the competitive side, are you getting people that are really competitive?
Oh
Any
yeah,
water
the
guns
winner,
coming out? And
No water guns. No, they're not playing. They don't have
No,
time to play.
it's like go
this
for it,
year's
right?
winner ran it in an hour and 47 minutes.
Oh wow!
In a men's solo hardshell kayak. And then I think the second fastest time was somebody in a stand-up paddleboard,
Yeah.
which was also under 2 hours.
So there different categories then?
Yeah, so depending on the craft that somebody's using,
right. So
they're in
either
different
kayak
categories.
or paddleboard or canoe or right. Okay,
Yeah,
excellent.
canoes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, they're not playing with water guns. They don't have
Yeah,
time. They're
I'm more
they're
of the
booking
fun
down.
float kind
yeah.
of guy.
That's why we have 2 categories.
That's right. Excellent. So then that is every year.
Yes, every March. It's done in conjunction with the Pecan and Wine Festival.
perfect,
So it's
yeah.
the 3rd Saturday in March every year.
So lots of fun for families to get out there and enjoy that. And,
Oh yeah. And then this year we also did a Science of Habitat Restoration at Rosanico Park
Right.
workshop as part of SciTech.
part of SciTech.
Yep.
Excellent. So
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah.
And then so I also was noticing on the website and the calendar too something about Big Spring Volunteer Project and your Thirsty Thursdays and
Yeah.
the native grass weeding. What? Tell me. They sound fun.
There's all kinds of things. So
Yeah.
it's something. Big Springs is a project in Camp Verde, which is on in Clarkdale, which is on town of Clarkdale property, right above the Tuesday Goop Bridge.
Okay.
We've started working with the town on this property about 4 or 5 years ago, and the first thing we did is the veterans went in and removed all of the invasive plants, and everybody knew there was a spring there, kind
Yeah.
of. But once the invasive plants came out,
Right.
all of a sudden you could really see what was there in this fabulous spring. And so we have ongoing maintenance. We do trail work. We take out invasives. So we're still doing that work continuously
Right.
there. And if you haven't been there, particularly in the summer, it's at least 10 or 15 degrees cooler than anywhere else in the
Oh
valley.
wow. We
It
don't
is-
want to tell too many people.
Don't tell everybody. But it's really, really beautiful, and you can access it through a trail through the town of
Right.
Clarkdale.
Excellent. So it's pretty amazing that once you get rid of the invasive plants and you
Yeah.
really start seeing the true beauty of
Yeah, and
of
Big
the
Spring is
Verde.
spectacular.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's excellent. So
Yeah.
Thirsty Thursdays.
Thirsty Thursdays is part of our One for the Verde program, which
Right.
is our business partnership, and the
Okay.
State Bar in Old Town Cottonwood is one of our conservation partners.
Right.
So on the second Thursday of each month, we have Thirsty Thursday, and $1 from each beer that's sold or wine goes to One for the Verde to help other
Great.
conservation projects around the Verde Valley.
That's excellent.
And that's just an example of a One for the Verde project.
Right.
There's lots of things that go on at local businesses to help raise money to do those conservation projects around the
we
country.
sell our Verde
Yeah,
Valley
you guys do your map.
and we contribute to that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's an excellent program.
Yeah,
So.
so it's fun
Neat.
and fun.
Yeah. So how can people get involved in that? Again, it's just as simple as going to the website
Yeah,
and saying, hey, I'd
the
like
other
to.
thing that's coming up April 3rd, which is Tuesday, is
Yeah.
Arizona Gives Day.
Oh, yeah.
And which is a statewide initiative to help do fundraising for local nonprofits. And so Friends is participating in Arizona Gives Day. And we have an Arizona Gives Day headquarters at Riot on Tuesday night from 4 to 9. Sister and the Sun will be playing,
Nice.
plugging Emily's band.
Right.
And it's, again, just a way to come out and have fun and support the river and meet other environmentally focused people or people who like to
Right.
float or just drink beer.
Yeah.
What
So
day is that?
That's Tuesday, April 3rd.
Nice.
From 4 to 7. 4 to
Excellent.
9.
4 to 9 at Riot.
At Riot.
Excellent.
In Old Town.
In Old Town. Perfect. So Kathleen, we're going to pull you in here. Now you can tell us a whole bunch about the Verde Valley Birding and Nature Festival.
Oh, it's going to be so much fun. This is the 18th one that we put on. It started at the Dead Horse Ranch State Park, and it's 4 days starting on April 26th and going through Sunday the 29th of absolute fun. And it's a whole combination of events, including workshops and river tours and boating and walks. In fact, we have 5 special events, and those are a school field trip. We're going to have 120 kids coming in by bus.
Wow.
And those kids are going to be broken up into 4 different groups. The first group will go to a live animal exhibit. And then after the animal exhibit, they'll go to have lunch. And then they'll go to the armchair birding area, which is an area that we'll equip with binoculars, and we'll have some trained experts on teaching them how to use binoculars.
And I'm excited about the armchairs. I want to
We have several events at the armchair area for people to sit and watch. We actually put feeders up, and we kind of chum the birds so they come in, hummingbirds and all different kinds of birds. And so the kids will learn how to use the binoculars there, and then some of the Audubon volunteers will be there to help identify the birds that they do see. And then those kids will rotate out, and 60 more will come and do the same thing.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that's one of the special events. Yeah.
Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll focus a lot more on the birding festival.
Great.
Okay? Thank you.
This is Bruce Morrow, Transportation Manager for Cottonwood Area Transit. Remember, we cover the entire Verde Valley and Sedona. Cottonwood Area Transit has you covered wherever you want to ride in the Verde Valley, all day, every day. Take Cottonwood Area Transit through Clarkdale, Verde Village, and from 26 locations in Cottonwood. With Verde Links, it's a quick and easy trip to Sedona every day. Don't forget our connectors to Camp Verde. Visit cottonwoodaz.gov for Cottonwood Area Transit and take a seat. Let's go ride.
There are people who struggle with addiction and homelessness. Sometimes it may feel like there is nothing we can do to help.
But there is. You can make a tax-deductible donation and help those in need transition away from homelessness. When you give someone a handout, you could actually be supporting an addiction.
A better life starts with better health, especially for those living in the streets.
Support solutions, not addictions. You can make a difference. Visit cottonwoodcares.com.
Welcome back to Rediscover the Verde Valley, and with me again is Kathleen with the Birding Festival and Laura Jones with Friends of the Verde River. So we were just talking about the Birding Festival.
Right.
And this one's a little near and dear to my heart. For quite a few years it was under the Chamber's umbrella, and got to work with Barbie Hart and Susie Beach and all the other wonderful volunteers. You guys got a lot of people that are committed to this festival, huh?
That's right.
Can you tell us a little bit more about, if people are interested in participating and potentially volunteering and helping out, what do they need to do?
Well,
what can they expect?
There's all kinds of opportunities for volunteerism. It depends on what your interests are and how much time you have and want to give, but there's opportunities and running the full range.
Right.
A lot of time or a little time or special activities. If you can work with kids, if you like woodworking, we've got some birdhouse building projects coming on the days of the festival. If you like to drive, we have driving opportunities. If you like to serve people, we have some hospitality opportunities to volunteer. And you can just go on the website and find Chris Jensen's phone number, name, email, and he's on the website that Laura mentioned already.
Right.
And you can contact him and just give him your name and number, and we'll get back with you.
Great. Yeah, I know that a lot of our volunteers also cross over and do a lot of volunteering there too. So, so tell us why. Obviously, we've learned quite a bit about the Verde River, but why this area for a birding festival?
Well, it happens to be on a river, which the birds need to have water, and they migrate up from Mexico and other parts of the country, and they come up the flyway across the river, and they hit the Mogollon Rim, which is an elevation change. A lot of those birds don't like to go into that cold climate, so they land here and they roost here. For birds like the common blackhawk, which turns out isn't common at all. It flies up from Mexico in the summer and it breeds here, and you won't see it anywhere else. It just comes here and it goes back down to Mexico, but it's not a common bird in all the United States, but we have them here in the Verde Valley. And it's because of the habitat here, the river and the water and the elevation. So we have all ranges of birds in this area. Luckily, we've got the river, and then we have the pinyon areas, and we have the deserty areas. So you get all kinds of birds. We've seen at least 300 different species of birds.
That's amazing.
In the valley. It's a high number of birds.
One thing that I first saw when I moved here over 20 years ago was bald eagles. Just walking down to the Verde River there and seeing one in the tree, and then of course one flying overhead. That's just amazing. So that's also something that's kind of common in our area, right? And
becoming
up
more
through Clarkdale, right? So,
right. In fact, that Clarkdale train, if you take that ride on the Clarkdale train, they take you out to an area where the bald eagles nest. And I think you were talking about a nesting area, weren't you, yesterday?
There's a bald eagle that's spending lots of time in Dead Horse. I don't know if he's nested there, but he's spending a lot of time there.
Wouldn't that be cool? Yeah.
I saw him dive for fish the other day. It's pretty spectacular.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing to see something like that, right? So this is a 4-day festival, right? And there's different field trips and things that people can take, and how does that all work?
Well, let me tell you, we've got, we have 67 field trips.
Oh, wow.
We have 12 workshops, and we have at least 5 different special events. I talked to you a little bit about the school field trips with 120 students.
Right.
We also have an exhibit and trade show that runs all 4 days, and that's going to be open to the public on Saturday when we have the family nature fair.
Right.
Yeah. And then we also have a welcome wine social, and there'll be a special program about the Verde River and what we can do to help it after that.
Right.
And then we also have a keynote and a decadent desserts being served.
Nice.
And the keynote speaker, maybe you can talk a little bit about him.
Nathan Piplo. And his topic is the amazing sounds of birds. So he's somebody who's really interested in not only the sounds the birds made, but how they communicate through them, through their sounds, how do they travel, and all that kind of stuff. So he's going to be coming. And for folks in the community who just want to participate in that area, they can come to the keynote. They can go to verderiver.org.
Right.
I'll plug it again.
Yes.
And then the other thing that we've made that we're really hoping people in the community will come out to, there's an e-birders workshop.
Great.
And that is really meant, there's an app that's done by Cornell Lab for Ornithology that helps us identify and track the birds that we see. And one of the things in the valley here, even not during migration period, there's still a ton of birds here. So we're hoping folks will come out and learn about the birds that are here in our backyard.
Excellent, yeah. So also on April 28th, there's the Family Nature Fair, right? That's open to the general public.
Right.
So we want people to come out and learn more about the birding, and there's opportunity for them to look at different binoculars or other tools to observe, right? So
yes, and that's a free day on Saturday. So you can bring your family, and the kids will have all kinds of things to do.
That's excellent.
There'll be live animals and birds, and there'll be all kinds of activities set up. There'll be birdhouse building, crafting, arts, games.
Great.
And we'll have the armchair birding area set up again with some volunteers with binoculars for the children to learn to use those binoculars to watch for birds there again.
That's excellent. So we've kind of used up all of our time. I know that there's more information on the website, verderiver.org. They can definitely learn about the scholarship to the birding camp, right?
Yes.
That's a good one for them to also, they can learn more about it at the family fair as well, correct?
Yes.
And again, tell us one more time, the website is
verderiver.org.
verderiver.org, and for the birdie, verde.org. org as well?
Same thing. It goes to back to the same. They both
Great.
point the same place. Yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you both for being here. I
Thanks for
appreciate
having
it.
us.
And thanks for teaching me so much about the river. Thank you, folks, and we'll see you next month. Thanks. Going out this